Hi guys, this is Tabitha Service, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you the first of two videos of making the Zhou Zishu cosplay I am making for my friend. This is from the show Word of Honor. Uh, it's taken me about 2 months of working on this project, but that's in between working full-time and running my Etsy shop. So as we go through this video, I'll show you how I've made each step. This consisted of a undershirt, pants, a over tunic, and a belt. And I will try my best to use what I think are the proper Chinese terms. So I apologize for any mispronunciations I am using. Um, I have a friend who's been helping me try my best with pronunciations and making sure I'm using the hopefully the right terms for each part of these outfits. Currently, I'm working on the undergarment of this costume. Looking at the photo, you can see he has multiple layers going on: a white undershirt, a black undershirt, probably pants going on, the blue tunic, and what you can't see is the overcoat. So what I did instead was merging the white undershirt and the black undershirt together. I did a fake white collar on this black undershirt that you will see later. Right now I'm putting the shirt on a fold. Usually this would be cut in two pieces and the back would have a center back seam. But as I mentioned in past videos, um, a lot of these Chinese dramas don't have a back seam. So I cheat this system by putting it on the fold, taking away the seam allowance, and then cutting down the seam that's in the front so that there will be an opening. I'm also merging two of my patterns together because I have not made time to make my own pattern that would already have the big bellowy sleeve already attached. Now to give you a little history lesson, um, these undergarments are called, I believe it's pronounced zongyi. I apologize if it's wrong. These are undergarments that were usually worn under clothing when going out in public. However, when you're going home and relaxing at home, you can wear these as loungewear. They usually consisted of a long sleeve shirt, so not really the big bellowy sleeve, just more of a narrow sleeve. Uh, Pants or a skirt. And these were both worn by men and women. I believe the skirt was mostly worn by the women, but I could be wrong. I'm not a. I have a degree in ancient Chinese archaeology, so I can't be for sure. I'm talking to my friend Dean, who's been giving me advice on Instagram about some of these information, and actually she let me use some of her photos to use in my YouTube channel. Right here, I'm working on the pants. I'm usually with the undergarment of the pants, it was a tie, usually tied at the sides. Um, I'm just using a basic pajama bottoms that's usually used as elastic, and I added pockets. Usually they didn't have pockets in their clothing in ancient China, but this is a modern day costume use, and cosplayers like pockets. In this footage, I'm adding the front section of the undershirt, and usually this helps make the fabric lay over each other when you are um, putting the shirt on. It's the flat basically so that it lays over properly. Here I am pinning the sleeves to the undershirt, and it's very simple. The curved end of the sleeve gets attached to the triangle bit of the main base. Uh, it's really hard to work with when you have so much fabric, and I know it's really hard to tell what I'm doing since it's a black fabric and there's so much going on here. And maybe one day I'll take some time and I'll like draw a photo, do like a video of me just showing what it would look like in like drawing form. If you guys would like to see that, just let me know. Uh, Also, invest in a lot of pins if you decide to get into hanfu making, because the bigger the outfit, with the more fabric you have, you need a lot of pins or clips. Get a lot of clips or pins. Once I've pinned the sleeves to the body, I started sewing it. Um, this can take only a few moments to sew it. You just want to make sure you've centered your sleeve to the main body, or else it won't lay properly when you put the front and the back together on a fold. So you might have to play around when you start pinning. But once you got it settled, you just sew it and you're done. The next step is I serged all my seams, the sleeve seam, the front flap seams. I also serged the pant legs. Uh, I always like to make sure all my clothing, both for my own cosplays and commissions, have finished seams. If you don't have a serger like I do, you can use a zigzag stitch or bias tape to cover your raw edges so that the fabric won't fray as you continually wear it. Once the serging was done, I laid the top down and I put it on its fold, and I pinned the corner where the armpit is. That's kind of like the main focal point. You want to make sure that matches nicely, and then you can pin the rest of it. And then if it doesn't, fit properly, because fabric does warp after you draped it, you can go in and cut off any excess fabric. And now I'm doing the other side of the outfit. And usually with these tops, you kind of want to leave a slit. I don't really leave a slit. Um, I never notice a difference. But if you have bigger hips, you might want to leave a slit on the side of the shirt. Uh, Now, after I did that, I sewed the sides up, and then I used an iron to hem my sleeves. You want to make sure you definitely hem your sleeves with an iron first, because this next part is a lot easier after ironing. I'm using a hidden stitch to hem my sleeves. I do this for both the collar, the sleeves, and waistbands of all my hanfu, so that I don't get any top stitching. It's basically where you're only nicking a part of the top layer of the fabric. Uh, Once that was done, I ironed my collar for the undershirt and the waistband of the pants, because I want to make sure those are reinforced and lay flat against the skin properly. And this only took a few moments, and I ironed both the interfacing side and the fabric side just to get any wrinkles out. And now I'm currently pinning the waistband into place. Uh, I usually start from the center back area where my back seams are and leave an opening, because sometimes when I'm working with patterns, they give you a lot of access for waistbands that, sometimes you don't even need. And I'm using the same hidden stitch foot again on the collar of the top and waistband of the jeans, because I really don't want a top stitch being seen, because you don't see top stitch on a lot of hanfu in live action movies and TV shows. So I find learning this stitch very important. And this, I'm just putting the elastic in the waistband. I'm using a safety pin, and then I'm zigzagging the elastic so that it can still stretch when it's inside the waistband. Uh, there's other tools you can use to like push a elastic through a waistband. I just use a safety pin. It's easier and not always on hand in my workshop. The last few clips you will be seeing is me working on what I call the tunic of this outfit. I believe in Chinese terms it's called a jidu. I could be wrong, but from my research and talking to Dean, we believe that this is probably a jidu top. It's a very long tunic that goes all the way down to the ankles, and it has slits to the waist area for walking. Watching the videos of this outfit from World of Honor, uh, I don't see any paneling, so it is not a different outfit that's similar to a jidou, but instead of slits, it has like a paneling section to hide the undergarments. From the clips I saw from Word of Honor, you could see the undergarments through the slit. So I'm assuming it is a jidou and nothing else. However, if someone who does know Chinese historical outfits and know exactly what this tunic is based off of, please leave a comment. I don't mind learning new things, and like I said, I'm bad at pronouncing things, so uh, this is just me trying my best and using like Google Translate to help me pronounce it better. Um, I'm using the same method I did with the undershirt, except for I'm lengthening the sides all the way down, um, all the way to the ankles, and marking where I need the slits to be, and making sure the sleeves are big enough for the undershirt to be able to go through. However, in photos of this outfit, the blue sleeve is shorter than the black sleeve, even though it's wider. So I had to go back and fix that later once I realized it wasn't laying properly. Sometimes you're gonna have to remeasure if you use a pattern like this because it's hard to tell how long it's gonna be. So I would recommend getting like 160-inch long measuring tape so that you can measure from like the shoulder top down to where you want it to stop. Because sometimes, because the pattern I have is short, so it doesn't go all the way to the bottom where your ankles will be. If you're taller than me, and I'm like 5'1", so this pattern fits me well. But if you're taller, you might have to add a few inches, which I did for the person I am making this commission for. So I'm just going to let the clips play through because it's kind of similar to what I did before. With the shirt, it's just longer. hope you guys just enjoyed listening to some music as you watched me speed race through sewing this tunic. Uh, in these last few clips, I'm doing the hidden stitch seam again. It's that same stitching where I just nick a little bit of the top fabric so that when you see it from the other side, you don't see any top stitching. And I did this for the bottom of the tunic, the collar, and the sleeves as well. Um, it it's pretty easy and simple to learn once you get the hang of it. So I would just do a lot of testing on swatches to get the hang of it. Now the next part I was working on was the trim that's along the collar and edges of the front of the tunic. It goes around the collar and then it goes down the side of the openings of the tunic. From the photos, it has two lines on the collar, one that's on top of the collar, and then one that is below where the collar starts. And then on the sides, where the opening is for the tunic, both the one that's visible and the one that's seen on top of the tunic, it looked like it turned into three lines. So, looking at the photo, I kind of gauge how far apart the color combo was because the trim is a light blue with a dark blue in between, as you'll notice in the photo that I will put up on the screen as I mention it. Once I've painted the blue lines on this light blue trim, I sewed it in place, which I had to go really slowly because the trim is very thin, and I put the trim on the collar before I sewed the collar closed, and then I added the trim later below the where the collar began. I also switched my foot to a. I was gonna switch my foot out, but I decided the normal foot I have in my sewing machine was a lot better. Um, I think there could be a foot that would make this work better. I just don't think I had one that would make this go a lot quicker. Um, if you do have a trim this small, the slower the better, because just the slightest movement and you won't hit the trim. And I was trying to stay in the middle of the trim as best as possible because this trim has a slightly middle section where a seam can hide, and I didn't want the seam to be too noticeable since the trim is two different colors. You can also use, if you're asking what kind of marker I use to do the dark blue, I just used a fabric marker that was dark blue, and I let it dry, and then I set it with my iron. That's all I did, and it worked really well. I don't know how it's going to do in a wash, but I always recommend hand washing the cosplays you make. It goes a lot easier in case of any issues. The next part of the costume that I will be working on in the next few clips is the sash that is around the waist of the character. Looking at the photos, it looked like a really thick material, so I went with this white cotton webbing that is used in like chair making for like outdoor chairs or pool chairs. It's 100% cotton and it was white, so me and my friend Emily, we dyed it black, and I borrowed her machine to do this decorative stitch that's down the center of the belting. Uh, there's two red lines, so I did one on either side. And this took me about like an hour to do because it's such a slow task to do a decorative stitch like this. Once that was complete, I hemmed the one end of the strapping, and then I started to work on adding the Velcro um, to one end. I had to play with it a lot uh, because I want to make sure I gave enough Velcro in case my friend who I made this commission for either loses weight or gains weight. I wanted to make sure there was enough give. I do this to a lot of my own cosplays, or if I, have to wear extra layers because of weather. Once the Velcro was added, I put that of around the waist of my mannequin. My mannequin's set to the measurements of my friends, so I can easily see if I need to add or lose the Velcro. Once I was happy, I started playing with the length of the strap that would be tied, and once that was completed, I, cut the excess off and hemmed the rest of the strapping material, and then sewed the straps to the main body of the belt. And that was the last thing I did for this commission. In the next few videos, you see me sewing it on. I'm going to talk about what my next video is going to be about, which is making the overcoat for this cosplay. I'm making that as a separate video because there is a lot of details on this overcoat that I'm going to be working on. And hopefully, if you like this video, you'll watch part 2. And please enjoy the rest of this video. And if you like any more, check out my other videos. You guys have a good day.